think so.
Cool. Let me go check. Hey, everyone. I hope we catch some of you today on the live. If not, you'll see this on the replay. Yeah, we're live.
Okay, awesome.
Awesome. Hey, guys. Hello, hello. It is Ned and Kelly Vandiver.
We are back.
We are back today with the last video in our parenting series. And this particular video we went round and round with and played with it for a couple of weeks. Because I looked at Ned and I was like, I really just don't know if I want to do this topic. But I know it's so important that everyone see this and they understand how we get along and how we parent on the same team. People need to know this stuff. But I just don't feel like doing the content for this.
Yeah.
I just don't want to do it. Why? Because I'm in a bad attitude right now with parenting and with all this COVID nonsense, just with all this school stuff. It's just been a really stressful 6 months. And we have teenagers in the home. And I'm gonna tell you, parenting has not been fun.
No,
it's really
it's been a challenge.
Challenging.
Yeah.
So I've been in a bad attitude.
Yeah.
Okay.
And these are it's not that it's so new to us. We have older children, but this is almost like the second round of teenagers.
Yeah. Because our oldest are in their 20s, and for those of you who don't know, we have 8 children together. I had 7 when Ned and I met. And Ned had 1, and we've been raising my 5 youngest together because our oldest ones have been out of the house for a while. But we've been raising my youngest 5 together for the last 10 years that we've been together. Yeah. And
the oldest is 16, and the youngest is
11 now. Yeah. And
so we're dealing with a lot of hormones.
It's a challenge. Parenting is hard. And so that's why we really wanted to do this series, is because parenting is hard enough as it is. It's very challenging. It's the most challenging thing of my entire life. It has been. And, I have multiple. So, and people need support and they need help around this stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's a huge problem for 2 parents to be in a home raising kids and not being on the same team together.
And then you couple that with the different dynamics of parenting. You have blended families, you have divorced families, so all of these different scenarios can play out very differently and create even more of a challenge, just in parenting your children as it stands. But these unique dynamics in and of themselves can create more of a challenge depending on the maturity or lack thereof of the other parent, or both parents.
Yeah. But it's so important for our kids, so important for them that we get on the same team and we work together, because parenting is hard. It's challenging. It forces us to look at ourselves. If we're doing it right, we're always looking at ourselves and always checking ourselves like, okay, is this the best way for me to be showing up for my kid? Like, if you always have that at the top of your mind, you're on the right track already. So, when Ned and I started coming up with the material for this topic and creating the content, really the theme for all of the work that we do with our clients, this is ultimately about your healing, at the end of the day as an individual, and healing your relationship with yourself and healing your relationship with your past and your traumas, so that you can heal your relationship with your partner. And most importantly, so that you can model this healthy behavior for your kids, so that they know what a healthy mom looks like, they know what a healthy dad looks like, and they know what a healthy marriage looks like. And that, by no stretch of the imagination, looks like 2 perfect people and a perfect marriage. There's no such thing as that. Working through our traumas, working through our past, working through why am I the person that I am today, and how can I become my best version? That's healthy. Understanding that we're all flawed human beings here on our own journeys. The healing process is a lifelong thing. It's really a lifestyle that you begin to live out.
Right.
And so when you've got two healed individuals that come together, who the healing work is your number one value as individuals, and that becomes your number one value as a married couple, what you have right there is a really solid marriage. And it's why we're solid, because his number one value is growth and learning, and how do I be better?
Yeah, continuously.
Yeah. And that is my number one value. And so when you come together and you have that mutual value, it's really, really powerful. And so when you're solid in your marriage, the energy is clear in your home. You can actually focus on when that's the case, and you've got the solid marriage and you've got the clear energy, you can really focus on creating really great relationships with your kids also, which is so important, because again, it's challenging. And so just because, if something is going to be great, that doesn't mean it's not going to come with challenges. It is.
But part of the challenge is in, Kelly and I talk about perception a lot, and I'm not going to veer off too much, but I do want to just say, we talk about perception, and we talk about living from a place of creation rather than consequence and or feeling like a lack of control. So, our perceptions are the things that shape our reality. So how we are able to perceive ourselves is how we ultimately look at our partners, and ultimately how we look at our children.
Yeah.
It's the lens through which we look at everything that creates the reality as we know it personally for ourselves. So that's why when we're talking about this, the importance of creating a healthy relationship with yourself. Relationships and relating starts with you as an individual.
Yeah.
Okay, and so it's really important that people understand why it's so important that we build a healthy relationship with ourselves and continue that.
Yeah.
Not just feel like we've reached our pinnacle. It's your life's journey.
Yeah.
And this is how
to know yourself is your purpose.
Yeah, it's and this is how you're able to create these dynamic relationships, lifelong relationships with your significant other and your children ultimately also. But we're going to talk about this.
But yeah, so bottom line is, your family, your home, that's your biosphere, right? So what's best for you, is best for your family, is that you heal. It's in the best interest of your biosphere to do it, and your everyday life to heal. So and do this inner work, right? And it's become a lifestyle for us, and it's life-changing for people who decide to venture into it. So we're going to get into like some do's and don'ts. Really, we're going to get into the don'ts. Absolutely don't do. If you want to get on the same team with your partner, these are the things you absolutely don't do. So we're going to get into those, and then we're going to talk about how do we get on the same team? How do we get on the same team? Things that we absolutely practice. So we're going to get into that. The first thing you absolutely do not do when it comes to your partner is, and this is a really big one, is do not undermine your partner when they are disciplining your kids. Don't do it.
A big no-no.
That is a no-no.
Big no-no.
Every parent has different parenting styles, and if you haven't seen the first video in this series that we did on the different parenting styles, it was a long training, probably like over an hour, right at an hour long. And it's really, really fascinating, really interesting. It's a different parenting personas that we have accumulated and come across in our years together, different parenting styles, which we all have different ones that live within all of us. And so go check that out if you haven't seen it. But everyone's got a different parenting style. Some people are more old school, some people are more like very sensitive. Some people are very like disconnected. And so go in and check that one out. But the bottom line is, at some point, unless it's a parenting style, and which one was it? Just the withdrawn parent, the passive parent. Mm-hmm. Passive parents really have to learn how to connect with their kids and themselves and their partners. Mm-hmm. That's a very problematic parenting style for more reasons than one. But basically, though, at some point with your partner, you're going to have to respect that they have a parenting style. That's their style. Now, if you have a problem with something in their parenting style, you can always bring that up to them. But don't ever undermine your partner when they're disciplining the kids. Don't do that.
In front of the children.
In front of the kids. Yeah. Because what it does is it models that behavior for the kids. It also can, the kids can start to pit the parents against one another, or the side with the parent who's always undermining the other partner, and you just don't want that dynamic in your family. Yeah. So that's the first thing.
Yeah, and you see this, it's really prevalent among teenagers. They look for everything. Opportunity to manipulate a situation once they reach a certain age. We all do it. We all have done it.
Yeah.
But it is annoying as hell. Okay, it is. But and to safeguard yourself and your partner from having to go through that. Yeah. Ultimately, you want to be on the same team, and one of the important factors is you don't want to undermine your partner in front of your kids. They will seek out every opportunity to take advantage of a situation and try to get on the side of the parent or find some way to ultimately just get what it is they want. Yeah. So it really works against you.
Yeah. And I want to say this too, like Ned and I, we practice what we teach, we practice what we preach, we practice what we post. So we don't have an issue with any of these that we're saying don't do them, but they're prevalent. But I was married to, some of you have heard my story, some of you haven't, but I was married to a narcissist. He's actually also psychopathic, like mentally ill, and very violent and abusive. And so he definitely undermines me all of the time. With my kids, and always has, and that's a real challenge when you're dealing with narcissists. It's just something that they do, and it sucks. But if you're divorced and you're not with a narcissist, because bottom line, you can't co-parent with a narcissist. At the end of the day, there's a parenting strategy called parallel parenting. I highly recommend it. Melanie Tonya Evans is an amazing resource for that. And there's lots of different books, parallel parenting. You just cannot co-parent with a narcissist. But if you are divorced and your ex-partner is not a narc, but they were someone who undermined you in front of the kids, and maybe that's happening right now, but this is a person that at the end of the day, you can speak to them like an adult, and take ownership of your own stuff too, and be like, hey, I want us to get on the same team in terms of co-parenting. I really don't want you undermining my authority with, our kids, because when that happens, your children, especially when they become teenagers, are empowered to make really bad choices and can become very disrespectful towards the parent that's being undermined. And so it's really important that you correct this, because it's not healthy for the kids to see,
right,
and experience.
and the level of,
it's programming them in really bad ways.
and the level of undermining Kelly's speaking of is the term is enmeshment. It's kind of when you pull it's not kind of, it's when you pull your children into the adult aspects of your relationship between you and your partner.
Right.
That should just be between you and
or
your partner.
ex-partner.
Or ex-partner.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're filling them in, they have many questions, but you're giving them details that, first of all, are none of their business.
Right. They don't know how to process.
And a lot of times are just not age appropriate.
Right.
This is where you really begin to, there's a sickness with, the parents who choose to pull their kids and draw them into their drama.
Yeah.
With their ex-partners or even their current partners.
Yeah.
So it really does a huge disservice and injustice to your partner, the relationship, and your children.
Yeah.
So really be aware of this.
Yeah.
It's a sickness.
Yeah. So no undermining. Don't do that in front of the kids. That is no bueno. Okay. So the second thing is never be verbally abusive toward your partner or fight in front of the kids. And there's a difference between like arguments. Arguing is healthy if you know how to move through the argument. And that's what you're modeling for your kids, because that's just real life. Right.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to have arguments. We're human beings. But the verbal abuse, the calling the name, name calling, just passive aggressive, retaliatory sort of talk that's just mean. Again, like, you could be verbally undermining in a really mean, nasty way. That's verbal abuse. And then the things can get really heated. And really calling mean, nasty names. And it's abusive.
Yeah.
And when you're doing this in front of your kids, it's abusive, and you're modeling for the kids that this is normal, that this is relationship, that this is marriage. And you're teaching your kids how to be towards you. You're teaching your kids how to be towards your partner. You're teaching your kids how to be towards their siblings and people outside the home.
Yeah.
You're modeling that this is acceptable.
Yeah. And this is and we're going through this in a way that I want people to understand too, that this can be a progression. That first thing, just an undermining your partner can be subtle, okay? But over a period of time, if it continues and it's not checked, ultimately it gets nastier, or it could get nastier, and it leads to resentment. And ultimately this is where we start to see things heat up a little bit more, and the verbal abuse, that type of thing, where we start calling out our partner and saying really mean things to them. So I want people to be aware of that also. The way that we're going through this, I want people to understand that
there's a progression,
and you have to learn how to check yourself as early as possible around these dysfunctional displays, because they can get really, really bad.
Again, it teaches the kids to pit one parent against the other. And if they're teenagers, they can be really manipulative and really like, oh my God, like, what is wrong with you?
And we're speaking from experience.
Kid.
Past and present.
And it just, verbal abuse back and forth with your partner, it really, it hurts the marriage relationship in the end. Like, you lose trust. It just becomes, it almost, it's just so damaging.
And just think about we spoke of blended relationships, right? Just think about your person who's come into this marriage, and your spouse's partner is behaving in this way where they're undermining your spouse, to the point that it ultimately could begin to affect your relationship also, if you don't have the skills and you don't have the awareness and the knowledge to deal with this stuff. Okay, this is why we're talking about this. Think about it. I know a lot of people are in blended families and are, it's difficult to raise, um, you know, children that aren't biologically yours. Especially depending on the age that you come into
Come
their
into the
lives.
picture, yeah.
Yeah, it can be very, very difficult. Especially if you're dealing with a partner they already have problems and they've already begun to enmesh their children. Coming in trying to be graceful, trying to strike, really find that balance of showing the children love and also pairing that with proper discipline too. It takes time because as the new parent to these children, you have to get to know them. They have to get to know you. You just can't come in off the bat just laying the law and putting the hammer down on the children. It doesn't work that way. It's not really effective. And you may have to even deal with the other spouse if they're trying to create more of a drama rather than show support. So there's a delicate balance to all of this, and Kelly and I have had, it's been one of the things that we've had to deal with in our marriage, and so this is why we're actually speaking to it also.
What specifically? What have you had to deal with?
Oh, in terms of
With our
just like
marriage.
having a spouse undermine the person that you're
Oh,
with, and it
yeah.
affect the
My, the
behavior of
ex,
the children.
yeah, the ex-husband,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And it begins to affect your household.
Yeah. We'll do a whole other series on narcissists. That's its own series, okay? But yeah, super, super toxic to the family unit for the parents not to be in one accord for many different reasons. And then the last no, but that we see happen a lot, it happened in my last marriage, is physical violence. So with the undermining and the contempt and the resentment and the toxicity in the home and the air in the home being just so dirty energetically, and then it gets to the verbal abuse, and depending on the person, depending on the couple, you know sometimes verbal and physical violence starts early on, and sometimes it's a longer process to get there. But the physical violence is really the most dramatic, like toxic thing that we see, and it's not okay. It's not okay in any way. I don't care if it's just a grab or throwing things or pinching or kicking or bruising or putting your hands on one another. Domestic abuse and violence, it's not acceptable in front of the kids. And if this is happening at all inside of your home, then there needs to be outside intervention, like ASAP. If you know anyone who this is going on, outside intervention, ASAP, meaning you need to get help for your situation. You need to get in front of someone who is a neutral party, but who will like call out the problem. I shouldn't say neutral party. I should say outside.
Yeah. They're just
professional.
There have been many couples who we've worked with where the abused partner has been in this situation for a really long time, and they haven't seen it. They think it's normal.
Yeah.
Now it may have been something that took place usually in their own upbringing as a child. They saw it, and it was never spoken about in terms of like correcting the idea and the impact and impression it made on the child. So a lot of people will grow up assuming that this is normal behavior, and it becomes acceptable. They don't like it. Okay, but it's one of those things where it's
acceptable to be violent.
And it's embarrassing to some extent for them to talk about it with anyone. A lot of times, it's found out because ultimately someone does break down or someone witnesses this type of exchange happen. So it's a really big problem in many ways as a couple. But
And, you know, punching things, walls, you know, I've known a lot of men, you know, just through the years working with different couples who will put holes in walls, you know, doors. You know, that's not okay.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
not okay.
and especially when we're talking about your children being involved in
Yeah.
this. You know,
Kids do what is modeled for
yeah.
them.
I mean, we've seen cases where the children become violent with each other
Yeah.
as a result of this. Not knowing how to properly express their anger
Yeah.
with their parents, with their siblings. It becomes a total act out and show. And it's very toxic because if this is not addressed, this behavior moves beyond the household.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. So, how do we solve this problem? How do you get on the same team? Uh, it's a decision to get on the same team. And if you're with someone who you love, who loves you, that makes this easier. Okay? Because if both people are like, yes, and we work with people mostly who are both like, yes, we want to do this work, we want to heal and grow together. Because if you've got another person in the relationship that just doesn't care, you can't help those people,
right?
you know.
Yeah.
And so if you're with someone, and those are the people that we work with, if you're with someone, got two people who love each other, who really want to work through stuff, you can work through it, and you can make a decision to do what's called step off the contempt conveyor belt. Decide that you are going to have a clean air between you and your partner all the time, because that's what's best for your biosphere, for your family, for your kids, for you, for your partner. It's so important that we keep the air clean.
Right.
Okay.
And we're not talking about, when we say this, it's not about perfection, but it is about practice.
Yes. Ooh, that's good. Yeah.
And
that's good. Hashtag.
It is, and
it's about
Kelly talks about
this. Say it again. This is not about perfection. This is about practice. It's a daily practice. It's a lifestyle.
Right.
Yeah.
And Kelly, she talks about this being, becoming your life's journey. Anything you really want truly is your life's journey.
Yeah.
What you focus on and you really want it, becomes your life's journey. Your relationship should be the most important thing that you are striving towards, practicing towards, making better and better and better all the time, really. Seriously. So it's important that people understand that when we're talking about, we work with people who are ready to do this work, they've made the decision to
do this work,
put the work in, put the practice in, and to continue to grow their relationship in a healthy way.
Yeah.
So that's the mindset you really have to have if you really want to have the relationship that you say you want.
Yeah. And decide to have each other's backs. Like, no matter what, support one another. Whenever one partner feels strongly about something, support them around that. Even if you disagree, still support them around that. If they feel strongly about something, like there's some times where Ned feels really strongly about something and he's disciplining a kid, and he's, something that for him, it's a really big deal, that for me, I don't really care, but to him, it's a big deal. Okay. So I'm going to always be on his side. I'm always going to have his back on that. That is so important. And vice versa. There's some things for me, it's a big deal. And for him, he might be like, why is she so passionate about that? Why, where, he will lean back on that, but he will always support me in it.
Yeah.
He will always support me in it. And if you don't agree with each other's stances, that's okay. And you can have a discussion about that later on, and not in front of the kids. Right? So you always want to have each other's backs. And that's a decision. I'm going to have their back no matter what. And if I don't like it, we can have a discussion later on about that. Here's another one. always protect and defend your spouse when the kids are being, or anyone else, the kids or anyone else is being disrespectful towards them. Always. You defend them. You protect their name, you protect their honor, you defend your partner. If a kid is ever disrespecting them, that needs to be made an example.
Yeah.
And that's for the kids, and that's for anyone outside of your household relationship.
And anyone who has children, older children, teenagers and older, you've gone through this, and you know how important it is that a wife feels supported around, teenagers who are, girls, boys. The men. It's important for them to feel supported raising teenage boys, because the effect of not showing up together and supporting one another can be detrimental in terms of like the stuff that you have to deal with continuously with these teenagers when they feel like they can act out, speak any kind of way, do anything in anger, in any type of display that they feel like, and it's tolerated, by one. It shouldn't be tolerated by either of you, but if it's tolerated by one, the child always looks at that as a window of opportunity to it's almost like a way of controlling the situation.
With chaos.
That's what kids use a lot. This chaos.
Total anarchy in the home.
Boy, and they can create it. It's important, big time, that we support each other in that way. And the earlier you can do this, for people who have young children who are listening in, the earlier you can get on the same team around this, the easier it will make your life. Mm-hmm. Believe me.
Yeah.
Okay? It is so important, because these become really, once the child starts hitting puberty and hormones and everything start kicking in, that's a whole nother level of adult. Person and child you're dealing with,
Yeah. Next one is, and this, goes right along with the last thing we said, never speak negatively to the kids about your partner. Never speak negatively. It's just a big, big no-no. Always check in with one another to make sure you're on the same page around anything the kids have told you. So something that really prevents a lot of chaos in our home is, like, if a kid comes to one of us and they're like, talking about whatever it may be, we'll always check in and go, hey, so-and-so said this about this. Did you hear anything about that? Because it just keeps us both in the know as to what's going on.
And the other thing is, like, don't really go talk to your partner about these things. Don't listen to your child tell you that they spoke to you and they said
this,
it was okay.
Right. Or,
because a lot of times that's not the case.
Or mom did this to me, or dad said this to me, or dad did this. And, kids have their own lenses and their perceptions, and then they're super manipulative too, and they want to get their way. And if they know they can, they will do
There have been numerous times,
anything.
I can't even count the number, where I've checked in with Kelly around a situation and the child has told me something totally different.
Yeah.
So it's just, it really, lessens the chaos, so to speak, in the home around dealing with the kids in that way also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and that's the thing about the healing and being on the healing journey and having the solidity in the marriage, because if you're not on the same team, you're not super solid, you're never going to be able to create a peaceful household and a peaceful dynamic, and there's always going to be chaos. You have to be so solid.
Yeah.
And what we're telling you works, and it will get you there. Always have the child go to the other parent and ask if something is okay. if you haven't already spoken about it together. So if a kid comes to you and asks, can we do this or can I do that? And if you haven't already talked to your partner about it, then you tell the kid, go ask daddy or
Yeah.
go ask mommy first. And because there's so many times where the kids have been like, Mom, can we do this? And I think a long, long, long time ago, like in the beginning of our relationship, I would tell the kids yes on things. And you would be like, always, after I would say yes, you're like, don't tell them yes, or don't say we're going to do something.
Because if it would,
because sometimes he didn't want to do it.
not that, but it was also also if you
or
could,
he didn't agree with
if you
it.
couldn't do it, or you had to change plans, or it just worked out where we couldn't do what she said we were going to do. The backlash that you'd have to deal with was ridiculous. I could have alleviated 2 hours of just all this craziness if I just said, "Hey, we'll talk about it."
Yeah.
And we'll get back to you about that.
So always have the child, if you don't already have a mutual understanding with your partner, just tell your child, go ask daddy or go ask mommy and see what they say.
Right.
I think we already talked about don't correct your partner in front of the kids. Oh, here's another one. Make a decision, like a rule, a contract in your marriage to have hot button topic discussions, which are the discussions that really pretty much always get you into a fight or a heated discussion, right? Have those discussions in private away from the kids. So you're not enmeshing them, because that's another form of enmeshment. And if you don't know what enmeshment means, I'm about to share another phrase that sounds really strong. But enmeshment is essentially what is known as psychological incest. Psychological incest, psychological rape, psychological, incest is like a gross word, right? But basically what it means is that enmeshment, psychological incest, it can have the same effects psychologically, mentally, emotionally on a child as sexual incest and molestation. So it's particularly a nasty dynamic, unfortunately, that's very prevalent. And so you want to have those hot button discussions away from the kids, not in front of them, because that's enmeshment at that point. Very, very damaging. Again, respecting your partner's disciplinary style. Share equally in the discipline of the children. If you disagree with your partner's disciplinary style, do not interrupt their discipline, and instead have a private conversation about it later. So that is how you get on the same team. And if you're not on the same team in your parenting and you want to get on the same team, reach out and get help. This is what we specialize in helping people do. And we specialize in helping people walk the healing journey, get on the healing path. Because like we said, the healing path is forever. Getting to know yourself is forever. Healing yourself and your traumas and your stuff and your issues, that's the journey. That's the journey. And we love helping people get on that path because it's a great path. It's the most noble path. And so if you're ready to get curious about doing this inner work and this inner healing, and you're really, it resonates for you to heal your relationship with yourself and heal your relationship itself, because what was modeled for you was very unhealthy. And you want to heal your relationship with your partner and be a better parent, we invite you to book a discovery call with us. They are free. They can go anywhere between 15 and 30 minutes. You can call the loft to set that up and schedule that. and the number is 678-721-4244. We offer hourly coaching. We offer coaching packages, and we make ourselves very accessible to the people who are really serious about doing this work. You can also reach out to us in a DM as well to schedule that free discovery call.
You can also reach us at our email at info@therelationshiploft.com.
Absolutely. And if you know anyone who needs to hear this, please share this video with them. If you're in the private group, you won't be able to share it, but I'm going to post it in other places too at some point. So
yeah, if you're benefiting from this,
yeah,
believe me, other people can benefit from it also.
Absolutely. And we want to spread our message as far and wide as possible to help as many of the right people as possible. All right. Have a blessed weekend, you guys.
Have
fun. Love each other. And we'll see you next week. And the topic is actually going to be about the difference between coaching and traditional marriage counseling. So marriage coaching versus traditional marriage counseling. What are the differences? How are we different? How do we get results? And all that good stuff will be next week. So we'll see you guys then.
Bye, guys.
Bye.